Exactly 1,096 days ago, in a glittering ceremony in the Central Hall of Parliament, the biggest indirect tax reform in independent India was unleashed. The goods and services tax was in the making for several years, and it finally became a reality. Today, the GST has completed 3 years. The GST Council, a first-of-its-kind initiative in cooperative federalism, has met 40 times since its inception, issuing 127 circulars and 21 orders. The tax has managed to unify India as a single market, replace a myriad indirect taxes, and effectively eliminate cascading taxes with a single destination-based tax regime. But several challenges remain. The 5-slab structure is complex. The compliance process continues to be cumbersome. There are at least 13 different return filing forms as things stand. Dr. Amit Mitra, the West Bengal Finance Minister, says there are 24 different return filing forms. Revenue collection growth remains below target. In fact, not a single large state has seen its revenue growth at the required 14% rate so far. In June, the GST mop-up has come in at around 91,000 crore rupees. That is higher than the collection during the lockdown hit months of April and May, but it is still only 91% of the 2019 June mop-up. The pandemic has dealt a body blow to revenue, with cumulative collection for the first quarter coming in at over 1,85,000 crore rupees. That's a 40% decline compared to the year-ago period. Well, this was expected given the impact of the lockdown. So what is the way forward? What are the reforms essential to fine-tune the GST regime? To take this discussion forward, we're joined by Manpreet Badal, the Finance Minister of Punjab, a member of the GST Council, Thomas Isaac, the Finance Minister of Kerala, Movin Godino, member of the GST Council representing the state of Goa. Also with us, T.S. Singhdeo, the Health Minister of Chhattisgarh and a member of the GST Council. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. And I guess congratulations to each one of you. This is an important milestone, 3 years of the goods and services tax being completed today. Movin Godino, representing the state of Goa, also with us. Mr. Godino, many thanks for joining us. The revenue shortfall for Goa was 20.9 in 2018-19, and that has now moved up to 32.6 in 2019-20. As we move forward, what's your hope? What is the big change that you expect or would like to see in year as we move from year 3?
Shireen, as you are rightly pointing out, it is not only Goa which is facing a shortfall. It is most of the states are facing this shortfall.
Yes.
And as you know, if I may again say, heralding such a reform in such a big country itself was something which I know there were many pessimists at various points of time, and they are bound to be there. And I, for one, has always been optimistic. Even at this stage, I want to say, what does our problems boil down to? Is the system not working, or what are the problems? Why are the problems cropping up? I would say, as I have said right from the very first year and in the very first or several meetings continuously, that the GSTN system has let us down to an extent initially. There were a lot of hiccups in the first year, second year. They lessened the problem. And even now in the last GST Council meeting, we had none other than Nandan Nilekani giving us the problems that have arisen, and as to why we have not been able to match the data, plug the loopholes in revenue. Today, everyone admits more than 70,000 crores are going down the drain because of malpractices as far as ITC fraud is concerned, or under declaration. All these things have cropped up. And what was the system? System was a e-filing of all the invoices. Ideally, we should have been able to match the invoices and use the data for better revenue collections. Revenues would have been much higher if that had happened.
So, Mr. Godino,
not happened, and now
you make a very valid point. You make a very valid point, Mr. Godino. So let me ask you exactly about that. You're right in pointing out that Nandan Nilekani has told the GST Council that 70,000 crores was lost on account of excessive input tax credit as well as fraud. So, given that, do you believe that the priority will be invoice matching? Are we looking at that today?
Yes, of course, we are looking at that. But I want to submit one thing here. Compliance was always an issue. as well as simplification was there very much on the table at all GST Council meeting. And I want to simply mention here, it is no easy task. Even a person, none other than Indan Nilakeni, literally had to take 1 hour to explain to the council members as to what would be the new return forms to simplify the whole thing in the GST Council. When he takes so long to explain to us, a common man, the stakeholders, the businessmen, the industrialists, the small time fellows, how difficult will they find as far as compliance issues are concerned? We have to take a holistic view on all factors considered and fix the problem. Simply saying that the system does not work is not going to help anyone. And I think what's impacting us, we were on track to sort of settle all issues as far as filing and compliance is concerned. But the problem of the pandemic and then not getting the required hardware from China became a big problem. In fact, members did suggest that, even I had suggested, why depend only on China? Tomorrow, who can guess when the pandemic would be over? And now we have another problem across the border. So even if it is a matter of cost, costing a little more, getting it from some other countries, the required hardware, I think it would be worth the exercise, because by now we would have got the equipment and the revenue what we are losing as a matter of fraud by under declaration or by the not matching not using the data, by not cross matching. All this and ITC fraud, all these things are impacting the revenue. But in spite of this, Shireen, if you look at
I get the point that you're making, sir,
which is 91,000, almost 90,907 crores. In spite of when the industry is just coming back to its normal mode, it is on the way. It is a work in progress for them. It is like restarting. In spite of that, they have reached 9,907 crores, which is testimony that the architecture is not flawed. The architecture was very good. We perhaps were little lethargic in the true implementation of what was envisaged at that point of time. Why are we not getting 14%?
Fair point, sir. I get the point that you're making. Execution is perhaps flawed. Mervyn Godino, I'll give you the final say. You've heard what your colleagues on the GST Council have had to say. You've got a meeting coming up. What is it that you would like to see to ensure that this spirit of cooperative federalism, which has worked very well for the GST Council, is something that will be nurtured and is something that that we will see being built on?
See, we have to come with innovative solutions and reinvent ourselves, even while seeing and looking at the working of the GST. And with problems like the pandemic and problem across the border, I think even in the GST Council, we should look at them as problems. We should look at it as a golden opportunity to march forward. And to march forward, you need strong decisions, you need strong leadership. You need visionary persons, and I think we have that in the persona of our Honorable Prime Minister, and we expect to march forward. These are all temporary phenomena what we are facing. I was first of all appalled and surprised when a senior person like Mitra said that the whole thing is a mess. This is not, I think it is an overstatement of sorts, and looking at the reality and looking at the success of GST, the way it is working. And I think it is we who have to come to the solution. And as you know, we have always decided by consensus everything. So let a good consensus emerge to get something coming out of the box thinking with true application of mind, where the states also have a greater share in their voice. I think which recently they have been expressing more than what they used to express before. And let us not forget that even a state like Kerala, when they faced a problem, even though we have decided every decision except the lottery issue by voting, even at that point of time, everybody came to the rescue of Kerala by allowing them to impose a special cess, whereby allowing the tinkering of the architecture. That time it is not tinkering, and at other times it is tinkering. So this type of lopsided thinking should not be there. There should be a healthy thinking. Think of the country, and
Yes.
think that this is one of the best system what we have introduced, which the world is applauding us. Results may not be in the immediate future, but with everybody coming to the table, everybody coming and contributing, including
Yes.
the captains of industry, it is also their responsibility. They have to make it
Yes.
work. Why are there so many frauds? Why are they thinking of malpractices and taking
Right.
advantage of non-ideal functioning of the GSTN? They should not rather help the government
Sure.
see that be an honest taxpayer, and then there will be good, honest decisions also from the council.
Yes.
We will have more rationalization of the rate, though today might not be the time as yet, but it is bound to happen, and it should happen for a progressive country that is our India.
Absolutely. Well, it is bound to happen, rate rationalization. The question is one of timing. Perhaps when we see normalcy return to the economy is when we will see that move towards the rate rationalization reform taking shape. But we do hope that the spirit that has kept the GST Council functioning, one of cooperative federalism, continues. Manpreet Badal, Thomas Isaac, Movin Godino, and Mr. Singh Deo, thanks very much for joining us here on the CNBC TV 18 States Roundtable to mark the third anniversary of the rollout of the goods and services tax. With that,